Git Worktrees are a fantastic way to work on more than one branch at the same time without constantly stashing your work or switching back and forth. So in this video, we're going to walk through what a worktree actually is, how to use them, some game development considerations, and then for those of you who are using AI, I'll show you how you can use worktrees with Copilot in VS Code. All right, let's start with the fundamentals. Now, Git is a distributed version control system. So when you clone a repo, your whole project comes down with you. All of the history in every branch is going to live right there in that one local repo. Then when you check out a branch, Git is going to fill your working folder with that branch's version of the files. A work tree lets that same repo have more than one working folder at the same time, and each folder is its own branch. And the folder that you originally cloned into is considered the main work tree, and any extra ones that you add are considered linked work trees. Now, it's really important to understand that all of those folders or work trees are going to share one local repo, which means that your commit history, local branches, they all still live in one place and every work tree can see them. Now, the one rule that Git is going to enforce is that the same branch cannot be chucked out in two work trees at once. All right, let's actually make one. So in VS Code, you're probably familiar with this view, which is focused on the active repo. On the source control line, you can expand the menu to show repositories. And then from there, you can click on the menu for the repo, and now there's a work trees option. Select the branch and then give it a location on the drive. Now what you can see is that there's a main work tree, and then you have any that you have open that are linked below. Now, clicking on either one is going to toggle this window between them, but what's probably more handy is that you can click the menu next to one, go to Worktrees, and then click Open Worktree in a new window. Now, when you've done some work over in another worktree and you're happy with it, there's a command called Git Migrate Work Changes. This is going to pull the changes out of that worktree and into your current workspace, which really is just going to be the worktree that you've got open in this window. But the workflow that I actually prefer to do is open up a pull request from here, and then that way the commit history still stays clean. And then I can pull that down into my main work tree whenever I'm actually ready. And when you're done with your work tree, you can clean it up from here too by right-clicking and choosing Delete Work Tree. There's also two settings that live in your project that are probably worth pointing out. If you hit Control and comma to open the settings, then click on the Workspace tab, anything that you set here is going to get saved into the VS Code settings JSON file. The first one is the Git Detect Work Trees. If you make work trees from, say, the command line, this is going to tell VS Code to detect and list those two. The second is the Git Worktree include files, which is going to copy certain Git ignored files into the new work tree when it's created. So for Gamedev, this could be good for local stuff in your project needs, but maybe you don't want to commit. So for example, an API key or a local build config. Okay, so the biggest thing to be careful about when using work trees in game development is really all about how you work. The whole point of a work tree is to have a second branch going at the same time, but that also means that you've got changes happening in two places at once. And when you're only changing code, that's usually pretty fine because Git is really good at merging text. But in a game project, it's different because things like scenes and prefabs don't merge as easily. So the way I like to think about the second work tree is that it's like having a coworker on my project. You're both touching the same game, so you have to be thoughtful about who is working on what. And in practice, this means that when I've got a work tree going, I'm really careful about which assets are going to be edited in each one so that I don't have to deal with a merge conflict later. Now, to make it even more seamless, I highly recommend that you break the assets like scenes and prefabs for Unity or scenes in Godot into smaller composable parts. This is going to reduce the odds of having a merge conflict. Now, the other thing to remember is, as I've mentioned, work trees are their own folder. Now, this means that you're going to do a full engine re-import for the asset cache, which is going to blow up disk space depending on how big your project is. So just remember to clean up your work trees when you're done to keep it from bloating. All right, the last thing that I wanted to walk through is for those of you who are using AI. Work trees are one of the best ways to run your AI sessions because it lets you have them working on something in isolation, which frees you up to do work as well. Now, there are two ways to trigger an AI session with work trees in VS Code. The first one is with the regular chat view. At the bottom of the prompt window, you can select where the agent runs. And if you pick Copilot CLI, you're going to get an isolation mode setting, which lets you toggle between Workspace and Worktree. And when it's done, you can right-click on the session and open its Worktree in a new window to look over what it did. And if you're happy with that, you can follow the flow that we talked about earlier and have it submit a PR. And then if you right-click on the session again and choose delete, it's also going to remove the Worktree. Now, the second place is the agent window, which I am a huge fan of this flow because I tend to have a lot of different projects that I'm working on at once. Now, this is very similar to what we just talked about, but when creating a new session, if you have the Copilot CLI selected, you can also choose Worktree as an option. I did a video on the agents window and walked through a lot more, so check that out if you want to learn more. All right, that's Git Worktrees. Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful, please hit like, leave a comment, and subscribe as that really helps out the channel. I'll see you next time.